Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of In the Kitchen with Baker Girl. Thank you, Jesus. It is another beautiful day to be in the kitchen. Today, I thought I'd do a little something different. So instead of the soups and stews that I've been making, I thought today I would share with you this recipe for this very refreshing quinoa salad. So I'm starting off by washing white quinoa. Now you can do the tricolor quinoa. That's perfectly delicious. But this is what I found, and this is what I have in the pantry. And the thing about quinoa, you do want to wash it, and you want to wash it really good. If you don't, it'll be really bitter. Also, I have a half a cup of millet. Now, millet is very delicious. By the way, both of these are gluten-free. This salad is entirely gluten-free for all of those of you who don't want, like wheat berries or other things in a salad. And millet is very good. Now, this millet I'm using is from Bob's Red Mill. And I keep a bag of it in the freezer. I add it to my whole grain breads. I add it to a salad like this. You can also cook it and eat it on its own. You can also pop it like popcorn, if I'm not mistaken. It pops because it's a grain and it pops just like popcorn. So I'm going to wash that as well. Now, this recipe, 1 cup of quinoa and a half a cup of millet, it makes way more than you need for this salad. So what I like to do, I like to make enough of it because, you don't want to just go in the kitchen and cook half a cup of quinoa. You can, but I like to make extra. And then what I do is once it's cooled, I set aside what I need for whatever I'm doing, whether it's a salad or just eating it as part of a grain bowl. And then the other half I will freeze. So you cook quinoa similar to the way you cook rice, but there is a difference. And I will leave the recipe in the description box as well. If you're nervous about cooking quinoa, don't be. The best thing to do is just go do what I did. Go in the kitchen and just cook some. And the worst thing you can do is maybe add a little too much water. But if you do in that case, it's fine. Because it's unlike rice, it doesn't blow out if you overcook it. So don't worry about that. Now, to start my vinaigrette for my salad, I start everything in the bottom of the bowl and then build out in the bowl. So I'm starting off with some fresh lemon juice. And I also have white wine vinegar. And this is like your, a traditional vinaigrette. I also add some raw apple cider vinegar because that just kind of increases the healthiness to my salad. And I love throwing raw apple cider vinegar in something as well. I'm also going to use raw honey as well. Now here I have one of my favorite ingredients, which is pomegranate molasses. If you have never used this stuff, there is no substitute for it, by the way. You can use balsamic vinegar and, but there really isn't any substitute for pomegranate molasses. It's two different things, but it is very strong. And it's very sour and very tarty, but very sweet at the same time. You can find it in Middle Eastern stores. You can also find it on Amazon. I've seen it on Amazon. So I'm adding everything in there also with the honey. And I added in some salt and some pepper. And while I'm whisking, I'm just going to stream in about 1/4 cup of olive oil. You can add 1/2 cup of olive oil if you want your dressing to be a little thicker and a little less tangy. I like the tang in a good vinaigrette, so I don't use quite as much oil. You also can use such as canola oil, or you can also use avocado oil if you don't want to use olive oil. Olive oil can be a little bit strong, but it enhances the flavor in this salad, so I prefer to use the olive oil. And by the way, you can make loads of this vinaigrette and put it in a jar and put it in the fridge and save it and use it for, something else, to dress a salad with greens. It's delicious. It's very good. And because of the pomegranate molasses, it keeps very well too. Now here I'm going to mince a couple of cloves of garlic, and I mean really, really mince. You can use one of those garlic presser things, which I do not like. I'm a knife and cutting board person. You can also smash it in a mortar and pestle as well if you really want fine pieces. And you can use more garlic. You can use less garlic. That's entirely up to you. I love the garlic, but not an overwhelming amount of garlic. And I have a small red onion that I'm going to finely mince. You can slice it, and that will be delicious. It just creates different textures in your salad. So here I opted to mince it, but you can totally slice it. And I'm going to add that into the bowl. By the way, if you don't like, because red onion can be a little strong, you can totally substitute the red onion for shallot. Now here I have half of an English cucumber or a seedless cucumber. And I am just going to cut that up into a small to medium sized dice. You want everything to kind of be homogeneous in your salad. Like you don't want gigantic. It can be a little bit difficult to pick it up if everything is all these huge pieces and whatnot. So quinoa and millet are very small grains. They're actually very tiny. By the way, quinoa is not a grain at all. It is a seed, but it's very small, and it's not it's not like big like Israeli couscous, which is a little larger pearl couscous. So I'm just cutting up my veggies to kind of mimic the size of what I'm doing. And this salad is good too if you let it marinate for, say, an hour or two before you eat it. Now, I'm speeding up here because, yes, I did take the time to cut each one of these cherry tomatoes into teeny tiny halves. And I have also been known to cut the halves in half, too. I really don't like gigantic pieces of tomato in a salad. You can also substitute sun-dried tomatoes if fresh tomatoes are not available as well as they are right now. Fresh tomatoes can be a little tricky to find. Now here I have a handful of, this is a raisin melody. So it's some golden raisin, some super large, gigantic raisins, some, beautiful, red raisins, and then your traditional, just the regular raisins you find at the grocery store. And I actually found these at a market. I love them. They come in a very large bag, and they're great for snacking too. Also, I have a handful of Turkish apricots. Now, the Turkish apricots, I prefer them. They're very sweet. They remind you a little bit of a date, just with a little bit of tang. I love Turkish apricots. You could also use the regular apricots. And I have 1 can, I love my chickpeas in a salad. So I have 1 can of rinsed and drained chickpeas, and I'm just going to toss all of that. The vinaigrette helps to also, not only does it start to season your veggies that goes into your salad, it also starts to help them kind of marinate a little bit before you add the quinoa. So here is my millet and quinoa. It is fully cooked, and I let it sit just like you would rice and let it finish cooking off the heat. And now to speed things along, and also too, it keeps your quinoa and your millet from being gummy. Spread it out on a baking sheet and let it cool. If you let it cool in the pot with the lid on or off, it's going to be gummy. Trust me, I know I've done it. Even if you're in a hurry, don't skip this step. Spread it out and let it cool, and that helps the grains to stay separate. So I'm going to add a portion of this. Like I said, I make extra. So I'm going to add a portion of this to my salad, and then the remainder I actually put in a Ziploc bag and froze it, and it freezes very well. And I'm going to add in a good size palmful of fresh parsley, flat leaf Italian parsley that I'm going to chop. I am not a massive fan of a ton of parsley in a salad, but in this salad, it's totally acceptable even for me because the vinaigrette helps to break it down. It doesn't have that super strong grassy flavor. Now, I wanted feta cheese in the salad, but I did not have any. What I did have is a very good sharp, and I mean very sharp cheddar. Anytime I buy cheese, and I'm going to discuss this actually in a cheese episode one day, it's worth your money to invest into a good quality sharp cheese. The regular blocks of cheese at the grocery store, they're fine if you're making mac and cheese, you're grating or grilled cheese or whatever. But for things like this, a good amount of good quality cheese goes a long way. And you can tell it's good and sharp because it just crumbles. But of course, my preference would have been feta cheese, but this is what I had and this is what I use. So just add the cheese to your salad. You can also add some green olives or some black olives, which I love. It'd be delicious. And all you need to do now is to let your salad hang out for a couple of hours. Put it in your serving bowl and you are good to go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And good Lord willing, I'll see you guys later.